Yo, yamamo akwa basronko so eba POG Media so yesterday safe no aba obe subscribe na wa like dwumadi no e de ama obetimi nso a share dwumadi no na afoforo enso ensa akabi. And please click on the notification bell so send e the any news be out to platform no so a once we hunu ne eko ene ne eba owie nso a na o adwenkyere bi efa dwumadi ho anase o ensembusa bi a na o de ahye under the comment session nim de amaye yebeda wase bio se de bia no unya bre na utie na ohwe madwumadie no eyefe na yekoye nsem mu no Sam Nate Georgia or mrashe bedwani ema ningo pram ena mokotena obi dwumadie so anase obi dwumadie a wato ne din se ekosi sen no so abra no oneni twetwe enkomo efa Ghana ye kanko ene Ghana ye modern boy asese no ye de bo a agija ama ene Ghana ato abisino no na Sam George ene obi de ebobo hu na we na obi kobusa no about the ЛГBTQ law no anase law a Ghana yebeti atese say epene ema emma ne emma da ene emmema ne emmema de eda no yaye nim say Ghana ha no ye twene sere ne abasa asem yi eda mrashe bedwafie a omoda so omo ye de omo ka ho ensema enanu ya na enche bia na yete say parliament ede sanctions bi ebeba abonten efa sa adwumadie no ho a sa sanctions we say se obi biara ibehu se o promote anase o practice this LGBTQ anase sabisabi ma tafrache trumu anase lesbianism no obekọ afiase mfie mmiensa ene achiri na we na same anase Sam George de church mu no na ode nsem pi tudwa se mrashe medwafie anasa the Parliament of Ghana no nsem bebre de ekoso ho ema MPP MPs bi a ebine ebine ato anasa ebine the minority leader deputy majority leader or the two just say enka be omon cancel sa 3 years imprisonment na omonfa sika anaso omonfa fine bi enye dey enhye honom no sansensem ni nyina odi tudwa na owie no che say owo mpanimfo bi a omo saa trumu weyi anase LGBTQ no omo di hu tintiman a ono no say omo bufu anase bia say omo jinjana obetiman dey abobo omo din na oma type of bebre so ewo parliament na che say enye agudi so yenko na yenkokotie sama Sam Nate George edituja abra ne obi edwetwe enkomo efa LGBTQ ensansama eda mrashe bedwafie no Mr. to wase netie na de aka no yede ba besomoso medamase
part of it.
Yeah, I get it. But my free park for a while now share something you are very passionate about. The private members bill are one of our colleagues a pushy.
Oh, we will see. I'm very passionate. Make I say who come me home.
Oh no,
so say we are passionate about because me say we are. Sorry,
that's a good one. That's a good one. It's something we are all very passionate about. Yeah, what he faces here, and I mean, say I read stories online. Say Parliament approved 3-year sentencing before or maybe promoting, LGBTQ activities near the. He found you with the bills this year.
My can say we first consideration.
Okay.
And normally with the bill, no, after the bill is introduced, the first reading is referred to the committee. The committee does its work, public sittings and all of that. Then we come and do second reading. Then we start the consideration. Consideration, no, the main work. One of the main pillars near committee work. No, near committee Then after that, it now comes to the whole plenary. Committee, no, the report with amendments that have been agreed or proposed in the name of the committee, standing in the name of the chairman of the committee. In fact, on the floor, additional amendments are allowed to be brought in. Me say I filed new amendments on the boss today, or filing almost another 30-40 amendments on the floor of the house. Good. So now we have a cleaned up document. based on
cleaned
that,
up meaning say all the concerns of various stakeholders expressing have been incorporated.
Now been incorporated.
Okay.
Some of the amendments, because we move the amendment, the speaker will ask you for justification.
Yes.
Then he opens it for debate and say sometimes the chairman moved amendments, and as sponsors we debated him.
Okay.
And the speaker put it to a vote, and we defeated the chairman.
Okay.
There were times we even moved amendment. There was a time I moved an amendment as a sponsor. My co-sponsor, Roxanne, and movie counter amendments to me there, and defeated me.
Okay.
And his was a superior position. So
Okay.
all of those various, and some of the amendments are not even advertised. In the spur of the moment, our floor, it comes up. And say, for example, the Minister for Environment, Honorable Free,
yes. So she also MP.
solid guy, or a medical doctor.
Yeah, medical doctor.
Solid guy. He did the final amendment, Miriam Fida,
Okay.
where he did an amendment to the definition of sex, because we had defined sex to mean the biological assignment at birth of male and female. What's it, Debbie? I said, yeah, Adi, with respect to the chromosomal structure, and he did 5 further elucidation. Am I a TS? Yes, Obi wa ube hu nenim say or se bema. Nanso wo checking ni DNA na oyoba. Enti na obenya bema ogina ho. Who nenim to say bema, but or nufu ni bibia or hips ni caves. But cause oyoba, and that is actually the most biologically sound way of determining sex. And see, you see, some of those things just come up on the floor. He didn't file an amendment, but on the floor, interpretation section of sex, and he introduced it. So all of those things have to now be put together by the drafting office and then presented back to Mr. Speaker. Then the House will look at it, say, Obia Philly said that is what we did. There's then the Speaker will move us to third reading. Third reading is the procedural. Because the bill has been read for the third time. All in favor say, you can't, no bill, no Adanilo. So you would say that we have done a lot of the work, but we're waiting to see what the drafting office will bring back. And it could be it could be a matter of days, it could be a matter of weeks, it could be a month. But
what was the story around 3 years?
Okay, so amendments now. Okay. So in the original bill, and again, Nami, I will say this again. Uncle says I'm George Adani police or person Uncle for them. I don't care what you do in your room. And it's not our business. Now we with them. What we don't want is say now we with them. I say a war between wo any wo partner. No. Say I person who the barber jina me name e wa bonten. Who person who the be come me ma school. I got me ma. When you bring your private matters into the public space, they will be affected by public policy.
Sure.
What am I saying? Sure. Good. And so this bill is largely in response to the advocacy opening of ĽGBTQ office now in January 2021. February 2021 I'm here a statement said and then in August 2021 we laid the bill. Good. So in the bill original draft, the punishment for homosexuality, any of the forms of homosexuality, a fine. I think the minimum was 750 penalty units, maximum 2,500 penalty units, and then minimum or a jail sentence of minimum 3 years, maximum 5 years, or both. Judge, he will look at the case, the facts of the case now are decided. But in the case of advocacy, sponsorship, in fact, we call it promotion of, sponsorship for, funding of. Prohibited acts are ЛГБTQ activities. We don't put the option of a fine.
A strict jail term.
And I minimum 5 years, maximum 10 years. That was the original bill.
Okay.
Your core committee, would work on the committee and all of that. They say, okay, if this is your intent, we think you should make this a misdemeanor, make this one a second-degree felony. We're doing all of those alignments. There's a sentencing regime in Ghana. I didn't need a misdemeanor. You can't go beyond a certain time frame. And say, and the misdemeanor, we kept the fine for the offenses. We kept the fine and then said, minimum jail sentence 6 months, maximum 3 years. And we amendment. Then when we came to the funding and support of, we said it was a second-degree felony. And dropped it from 5 years minimum, 10 years maximum to 3 years minimum, 5 years maximum.
That's for the funding of
promotion. Of sponsorship of and those things. Obia or Wasika. And that what made this news was because the Honorable Afenyo Markin and the chairman of the committee, Honorable Asante South here, Central. No. They brought some suggestions. They think we should rather make it non-custodial. Yen yi jail term no free ho. Na yen ma fine. And I mean they kept talking about how to reform the person. I said nipanen sachaye I say yeah share. And I was there. What are you talking about? Obia when you're sika. And most of the people who fund are not LGBTQ people themselves. Yeah. They're not practitioners themselves. When you're sika or nimni or the sika be enti adia yesi ye chen ye mpe wo krom ha no ono de sika ehwemu kina sani pa no sacha ebe na wo because wa bone trimu po say adia me pese meye ni and so what reformation are you talking about? O say end there yen yi custodial sentence na e mani pa ne fine. Okay, speak as if I will propose a limbra propose the amendment or see yen fine ni pa no 50 penalty units. Only 50 penalty units no who the basic mo 300 Ghana cedi. And then maybe say obia ono wasika all fund the LGBTQ. Aso twi a wo see yemfa hye mra no mo ye 300 Ghana cedis. Are you serious or are you joking? And so we debated it and we shut it down and maintained the minimum 3 years, maximum 5 years.
5 years.
No option of a fine.
That's for the sponsorship
promotion and
funding of LGBTQ activities
in Ghana.
But no, is it not far-reaching? Because, for example, and for somebody who operates in the media, who is a content producer and all of that, no, they say me hey, and because our work as journalists, no, Emma inquiring say we have to be fair, we have to be objective, we have to make sure say all voices are heard. In the end, say will be a practitioner, but the person feels strongly about what is happening to LGBTQ for and I say na wabet na menim said ya mene we interview na mene na ye interview na ono ni position is o feel says ade was say makwan ma ne koso meaning said that person is likely to go for 3 years and me and my man is our platform so
media platform no. Okay, Obi, there are people who also feel very strongly say Obia most likely you won't see Obia when the 18 or your prostitution worker. It's consensual sex between two grown adults who just one chooses to pay for it, one chooses to charge for it.
Sure.
So Obi feels so strongly now Bass and Power Obama no kind somebody advocating for prostitution. Would you do that? I mean, the person feels very strongly about it. Sabita Frache say Obijina Togo Embassy ni mana Lagos Avenue enye wo.
Yes.
And say other thing a woman Sanipa no kwan say ombet na we feed so and push it.
Touch wood. Even if I decide to give that person the opportunity, there is no law it says say I will be held culpable and will be jailed. More so. Let
me give you another offense that will give you that has such penalties. So be better now has here. Now catch you say, "She, come her boys bro, girls also bread." And but who to me could be a stock a crabby. Now there ye the nyama baba gum. Ye there won't go for ye no money. Won't see a bar. One moon nimbe be on the be find here the be foul shop mo. Now there money laundry.
Yes.
Say bit a fracture no. Shop no na wo enya wo dia enya wo hwe obisika na ye wo shaman eno money laundry no and also how obia but if you do that on this your platform the anti-money laundry law act will hold you and hold you responsible for aiding and abetting. Even with prostitution, aiding and abetting prostitution, that's why if you own a brothel where known for that police bet you. So even with prostitution, the current legislation, our Criminal Offences Act, will hold you for aiding and abetting. Which must say, and see, if you then willingly give your platform for the propagation of something that mrase, Obi, who can say you think is everything that the law says is not good that we all like? Obi, me, nyomdi ye me waya also west. Who can say me nya, and come in, me boys. Now Michelle Obi of MPP amema woman so. We've passed an anti-vigilantism act. And so you can do that. Whether you want to, whether you feel strongly about it, you can't. Because Ghana for do wanna say yempe. Yes, yempe, ye diaba ye mashe fie. Ama ya shisha mra. Said nya Ghana for do wanna see one penny. And to me penal cannot supersede the desire and will of the majority of Ghanaians. What must say? But
yes, answer me. Yes, I'm not George Eka. Imu rem, imu pi na. Papa you would me answer pa you. Utie in some kekaimu. Waboa Ghana. Na sabi usa ЛГБТQ wedi. Enka ye before Ghana 43. Nyamsom my Ghana enka ye de enka ЛGBTQ de enka yehwemo sei enso eye mrahye bojani wei anasa Sam George aginam ama ene ye betimi pass this bill ama ene ono betimi de nsa sinibu akase eye ono ne dimutintiman ma asa de we course wa Sam George na mi nhira no pay because akonkoden enye easy ya ye nimu anu a ebeba no so attacks are international the beba so manyagro and so wabon homoden pay ya wo kire se ampa oye nyame so adwuma na ompene da emma sa tumutumu anase LGBTQ no so nye de bill no enye de emma so ewo Ghana ha na oto aso ka nsem bebre efa asansem we hu a ye bepese ye bekọ na wakọ akotie nsem a Sam George and so ekato aso medamase.
Different when you are engaged in, for example, there's an academic discourse. And in academia, for example, there could be the conversation about the role of LGBTQ in the spread of HIV.
Yes.
That's an academic conversation. That's different from Obi Awabet now say no, we should not have the law. To say say Obi sending me video. Obi say one woman demonstration against bill no so of reference for Obi say who said na dwe no mo ebom kakra because we see who hear one woman demonstration yet you are asking people to come and join you. We want to before now we can won't here. Such a person you don't take them serious. But imagine that such a person comes to sit here and you give that person the opportunity to begin to say you should allow kids should be allowed to choose who they want to be and to allow and this is prime time, this is daytime radio. Daytime radio nkwala etika mu every school etie na nipa no beka say ese woma oba ebetumi ni oba aye ne awomo pe any mema. I mean Obi, there are ethics and there are standards in journalism. You get it?
Sure.
It's completely different from an academic conversation in the confines of an academic space where you are making academic arguments.
But even in the academic space, there are standardized and credible academic journals.
Absolutely.
Which are also read by many people. If maybe in my research, I think say me who be in the research, I just it might be seen as promoting that activity. But if I publish in an academic journal, for example, do I fall foul of the law?
No, you've published academic work. Obi, in fact, even and J. Mensah took pain to make a certain example in one of the clauses. Do I remember well? I think it's clause 12.3. And no, my name said, I've even seen, there was this article by eminent academics, lawyers, Sh0ck of blessed memory. They did, and I was surprised because senior lawyers, and Chairman Sambonsu, the majority that made that clarity. Because now we say we a bema kana uko active play now we share atadiet se oba Sam George Manabecho. No, that's not what it is. It said intentional cross-dressing with the intention to carry out an act prohibited
by this law.
Act. And this law is focused on Obia washeda she atadiet se oba or bema washa atadiet se oba esan se opese obetwi oba fufro ana bema fufro na oye bema o but washa atadiet se oba na because opese oba said you see bema fufro na oni nada as bema. That's a criminal offense. But Uncle Ebo White any play na obema bi atias oba. It is the intention there is not for a sexual activity. What am I saying? So it is clearly defined. Now, Obi, even when you are accused of falling foul of the law,
you have a day in court.
You have your day in court. You will present the facts of the case. Oh, Madam, Mommy Judge, Papa Judge, me metia, nipa ne baye, ye di enkomo, and I same way baye. Nipa ne can say in this context. In the basis of that, no, a expression of academic opinion. Me want to say a promotion of judge no betie. Obe request it tape no. Obetie. Obe who say, oh, I do way there a academic discourse and say you are discharged and acquitted. Obe can say, oh, that be way there. Me who say what should that? Now the nipa na ba be a leading question just to raise these things, because if you remember, I think it was in this very studio. It was with you. Me ba no, it was not you. It was your sister station.
Okay.
Evans.
Okay.
Or your interview be.
Okay.
And I mentioned, as soon as they put me on, make a chance and say, oh yeah, no, could make multimedia and he himself liable if the law is passed. Or say why? I'm catching and say, what for or be free a so-called a gay rights group in Ghana. First and foremost, our laws don't recognize gay rights groups. One on the platform, and then the panel catcher will say, one must celebrate gay pride events
in Ghana.
And now we'll be saying say a day, which days, what activities. Masa, that in itself is giving them a platform to promote something that cannot be said to be an academic discourse or the exercise of journalistic freedom. Which must say, because when you are now asking the person, and this month you say it's Pride Month, what are your activities? Now Nipano man a platform. Now on church you say and this day you better say until you better say go to this website and you will get further information. That is no longer academic and that is no longer journalistic standards. That becomes an enabler and giving a platform for advocacy
for a criminal activity.
For a criminal act.
The other thing is when I listen to you well, not just committing the act itself, the punishment for committing the prohibited act itself, you know. From saying the promotion and the funding, right?
Absolutely.
Why? Because
Obi, what we are at risk at or of, people from outside are OMG contract. Ghana for Sika wa de mo OMG contract. So body rama womo. I can mention some of the biggest so-called supporters and advocates of ЛГBTQ. Ebi Akroma, Hawama was 7 with 7 different women. Now, so they not promote homosexuality. Say, what did say? Idea say we a bema. Say we need uncle bema better. I don't know 7 with a mass 7. So clearly, you will see that it is not because they believe what they are preaching, but it is what they are getting from what they are preaching. And it is that advocacy. Obi, one was setting up clubs. It was secondary schools. What's the case now? They are setting up clubs in secondary schools and giving incentives to young children. Grooming of young children. It's a criminal offense. So the real threat to us, foreign culture now, you person one the bet 2 years so. For a contract, one say the fiber of our country, our moral fiber and our social fiber. Now at the base of all of this, no, is to distort the concept of family. Obi, wunyi wo kalabrem na wunyi no. Wunim say wo papa. Efie ye wo ye maame na wo ye yeja ye papa ye maame ye oba ye papa ye bema woni wonua na mo wo ho wo ye bema wo wonua ba but say I want catch am kwala ne say wo papa betumi ye oba na wo maame nso ye oba ana wo papa betumi ye bema na wo maame nso ye bema. What are they trying to teach the children? It is this attack on the family unit. That's why the bill is not just talking about human sexual rights, but Ghanaian family values. What do we regard as a family? We regard a family as father who is a male, mother who is a female, and children. And they're male and female. And that's why we're always specific in the bill to say at birth. Because so we're being very careful. And in Parliament, I gave the example. Obi a say oye oba ye wo no be ma say oye oba wa kodi boni ya che no o say oye oba nti on to me call mema prison ye na go share ma prison 6 months ma miensa anyam and they ban saying say America is fighting in its sports because obema oye swimming or we ono ba last or the last you call swimming na school inter-school championship no there be our no way say I do see your friend Robbie Biom your friend Roda and as say or wako
or compete
against a man and as say no odi gold odi first so what bon want to me new young member be compete here now say there was we oba now could first for and even American athletes are being kicked off, female athletes are being kicked off the American Olympics team for transgender males. Sebi pretty with the greatest of respect to your listeners. Some question same way. And ya dear, I say yanko patch or say you're from Brian. No.
And that's why you see, and I say sponsors new promotion, that act of promoting and funding to be even more serious.
And that's why we are going after it.
But since we year 2024, which is an election year, parliamentary resuming, are you confident, sir, this bill will become law this year?
Oh, why not? I want to believe, sir, Omampenyin Nanado. Was it an Anglican church? Or called Asorbi or Mountains?
Yeah.
I think it was either the Anglican or
maybe you can make it public. Yeah,
Anglican church. Yeah. And I can say it will never, homosexuality will never happen under his watch. I mean, there is no greater opportunity to walk that talk by accenting to this bill.
To the bill.
In fact, this bill has the full approval and support of Omampenyin, the Attorney General. And let me put it on record because you share Attorney General on this bill. And when we finished, Ofremi, Godfrey Dami, and you can call him. You can call him. Godfrey Dami Fremi, I say, Sam, come. Yesterday I heard you in the media. You were saying that I don't support the bill. You have seen the work I've done with you to clean up the bill. Please go to the media and grant an interview and say, tell them that I, Godfrey Dami, Attorney General, I support this bill. I am against homosexuality, and this bill has my support and clean bill of health. Godfrey Dami's own words.
In the to his credit, you are making this
and I am and I did it. Me friend Evans and I'm catch. I said, Evans, I beg you, and me can be what will show so. Say I wasn't sure that Attorney General was supporting, but he showed me in about 2.5 hours of meeting his support, and he requested that I put this out, and I put it out. And so I'm repeating it again. And so I don't see why, because when the bill goes to the president, I'll be saying the Attorney General for the opinion. Opinion no na must Attorney General Akanda. I don't, and we have not changed anything from what he said. In fact, the reduction in some of the lengths, are because of the engagement with the Attorney General. And everything the Attorney General wanted, we've done. So I don't see how the president will not sign, because the Attorney General is on all fours with us on this bill. Which must say, and I'll catch him say, Sam, I'm a child of God, I'm a Christian. So I don't want to. Let's not preempt the president. I want to believe, said the president, and it's not just about the Attorney General. The president is going to listen to the mood of the country. Asofo etechi, kremofo etechi, ye nananom etechi, ahimfo etechi. So everybody in Ghana seems like even the CDD's own research shows that 93% of Ghanaians
they abhor this,
avoid and don't want to see it at all. And this is, I mean, so for me, Omampenyin, you hold power and trust for the people. And I still, I mean, I've heard all the rumors and I've heard all the insinuations people have cast, but on this one, Miss Sam George, I want to trust Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo and believe, say, obey nia eye ma ye na ye daji ma, and he will sign this bill in line with the words he himself has spoken. Because look, Obi, on this bill, there are senior people in the MPP who've picked the phone and called me and said, Sam, you know, nya drink or be beer, but I did wait there. We bump my mouth and your mouth contenting. There are people who meet me and say, Sam, I don't like your politics, but on this bill, I have your support. This bill has cut across the whole country, irrespective of your faith, your religious belief, your political affiliation, your age. They are Gen Zs. Gen Zs. Hereford Assembly I will tweet no. one who pressure and for the 2 me so say and then a bill ni ho enya Gen Z for and I want opinion for baby bloomers obia FATG. So I'll be shocked that the president will take a different stance. So I know let me err on the side of caution and say he will pass it.
Once the bill goes through all the stages, the president will assent, and this year it will become law.
Yes.
Okay. Kesi saying the higher senpai, family honorable Sam George, and AD and Komo. We still have some few other issues to touch on and Sunny the interview, Abba Ewie or Adrentra. Let me remind you once again about our WhatsApp number. Let me see. WhatsApp number is 0548 443 523 0548 443 523. Na yenti unso wadwentre ene de wo MIA. I would love to hear from you. Enti few messages na fe yentwaso obi ask Honorable Sam George if the law defines what an intent is or what would constitute an intent to seduce a same gender. I think that would be a very difficult task for prosecutors to prove in court if not clarified. Al-Haj Suleiman and Al-Haj, and Al-Haj, the courts a way of establishing intent. Yes, it might sound difficult for you as a layperson, but in court, the court would establish intent. There is a way the court establishes intent.
The facts of the case will establish the intent and all that. So people who feel say, oh, you see, you pass it law, you chobi na you court and so on. No, everybody will have their fair day in court.
Sure.
And there is a burden of proof on the prosecution.
On the prosecution.
The burden of proof is not on the accused.
No.
It's on the prosecution.
It's on the prosecution. Indeed, if there are doubts about how you've established a way now, then the person walks free. Kindly alert Honorable, if it is 50 penalty unit, then it should be 600 Ghana cedis and not 300. Please verify for us. Godi or Tema. Godi, thank you. We say, Obi, we need this bill passed, and so Parliament should take a cue from the legal position of the President on the anti-witchcraft law. Can they do something about the custodial sentence so it doesn't become a burden on the consolidated fund? And that's another interesting point. I'll pick Sam's opinion on that. With the benefit of what happened with the witchcraft at the end, he makes the point, say, can Parliament do anything about the custodial sentence so it doesn't become a burden on the consolidated fund? Well, one of the arguments the President made.
That argument, respectfully, that argument by the President is flawed, with the greatest of respect to the President. So, who can say is going to introduce a new cost now? It doesn't hold that way. You see, the prisons are like a revolving door.
Sure.
Ebi komono, na ebi ba. So unless the president can establish, say, the effect of the witchcraft bill, and the effect of the anti-LGBTQ bill, by increasing numbers beyond the existing numbers, because as and when people are prosecuted and incarcerated, if they have to be, there are people who are completing their sentences. And also coming out. What must I say? And you see, the president's actions in that whole process, especially with the witchcraft bill, is unconstitutional. The president doesn't have the authority to make that determination. See,
the speaker hinted on going to the Supreme Court.
And I'm still encouraging the speaker in Parliament to go to the court. Because you see, there's separation of powers. It is the duty of, you see, because of our history, we've allowed Parliament become so weak. Because when Parliament is so weak, it strengthens the executive beyond measure. But the executive should not be the one telling us, say, Parliament, you need to be a now no. The whole separation of powers, the legislature is the arm that makes laws. We ought to originate laws. Laws ought to originate from Parliament. The executive is supposed to implement the law.
The law.
Not to formulate the law. Implement it. Now obey would be juma. Now who executive who feel say no and there. Then you go to the judiciary to interpret Parliament passing. Say who are buying way Parliament no. Me feel say then the judiciary will independently determine say Parliament more from and executive Parliament is correct. Say citizen be say Parliament no. Now abide the year juma. But citizens be feeling say some run Parliament it tramples on their rights. They also go to the judiciary.
Article 2.
But it is not for the president to sit down and say, oh no, washem ranemo and he thinks I'm running until he's returning it. Are you the judiciary?
But in the law-making process in our country, the bill doesn't become law until it is assented by the president.
He's supposed to accent. If he won't accent, he's supposed to state his reasons why.
Yes.
That's it. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have the authority to pass judgment on the processes of parliament. No. And even when he refuses,
yes.
And I urge Sh0ck to explore this because Sh0ck is the sponsor of the private members bill on witchcraft.
Okay.
When the president, after 6 months, he's supposed to issue a white paper. He's not supposed to write back to parliament and tell parliament, say, no. But even when he refuses to sign, parliament can then on the application by the sponsor,
yes,
put a vote. Yenya 2/3 say president and sign you
or sign you. It becomes law, sure.
So I mean, if we all
then you have that way to explore.
Yes,
so why is it not?
No, that's what I'm saying. And well, I'm reaching out. I'm advising my brother Sh0ck.
Okay.
He's the sponsor of the bill,
okay,
the witchcraft bill.
Okay.
And I'm saying to him that we all, in fact, I don't think there's anybody in parliament who supports the work of so-called witchcraft hunters.
Sure. Sure.
We all believe, say, the witchcraft camps must be closed and to inform parliament and subject it to a 2/3 vote. I'm sure we'll get 2/3.
You'll get 2/3.
You understand me? But I still believe, say, parliament must go to court for the court to rule, not just about President Akufo-Addo, because private members' bills will not end today.
Yeah.
And look, parliament has been so pushed into the until Professor Mike Eronokwe. Everybody knows me and Mike Okwe. We had our fights in parliament.
Yeah.
But I will always give him his credit for what he did with private members' bill. Because what's here president now? The president's position. And it makes me understand why when the president was in parliament, we didn't have private members' bill, because that's their thinking. And that thinking is wrong. If that is the position of the law, then we should shut down parliament. You don't need parliament. Like the military dictators do, the military hunters used to do, decrease. AFRC decree, PNDC decree. They didn't need parliament to do anything. One more decree now, no. The courts work with it. Because if you are saying, say, parliament on our own, because if you take out the custodial sentence and you are saying because of cost to the state, I told you the Attorney General not be 2.5 hours for your 2.5 hours not be sad time when so then it means the Attorney General cannot be involved in any processes of parliament. So you see, you are moving that whole thing about financial cost to the state to a certain absurd level. If you see police for now ask, are they recruiting new police because of anti-LGBTQ bill? Nana. And your existing prosecutors now we are not going to give them additional salary because of that. And so you see, these are weak arguments that are being pushed just to muddy the waters, on it. Yes, but Charlie,
fantastic.
So, say OJ Brenna uti POG Media. This audio bite no edema na menim say oye Ghana ni na utie sa audio bite we ya ayde adwiri na wo sa bebo Sam George abaso pay yi ewo the effort oputi about this bill that parliament ekuku dem bi a say omobro ono no sompo the ekutia no nenso oda so gina na nemu ne nyame so adwuma anche say enya agodi kura na mensensem we no eboboba yinim say election year de ho sensem esa beba be yeteja ache say POG Media de everything behind sabeka about this story bianso ne de bede ye de bebro na now no baby parliament ko adu ne de ye betima ka say we are heading towards a glory of what abolishing this ЛГBTQ mebe kakra no enye anase enteki function ewo Ghana ebiu na emrofo no de won asem ebe de ebe free yeso akọ mede was biu na mama akwa aba e aba POG Media. So Mr. subscribe, like, ĽGBTQ and share na ma afoforo enso ensa enka and please click on the notification bell so send a be the news be to platform so a onso hunu ne echo ene ne eba Mr. ølGBTQ na everyday anase 80 your stories are edidi ehono medawase.